Merry Christmas, malt friends, and welcome to the Whiskey Amateur Class episode number 10. I'm really happy to say that when I started the YouTube channel, my plan was to have 10 videos by year end, and here we go. Today I am going to talk about my top 5 favorite single malts to date. And before I start, I have to mention 3 things. The first one is that I'm extremely biased. So I really like smoky whiskey, and I think more than 80% of what I've tasted is smoky. So I primarily tasted Islay single malts, and recently I've been exploring Campbeltown malts. And of course I had many different whiskeys from other regions, but my top 5 list is going to be very specific. Nevertheless, I would like to share it with you. The second thing is that I've been, of course, writing a huge list in an Excel about the whiskeys that I tasted so far, and I didn't update it recently, but I think I'm around 135 plus minus, and that's something. So I think I already achieved a pretty nice milestone, and pretty soon I'm going to be roughly around 150. So yeah. My list is getting longer and longer. The third thing is that the whiskeys that I picked today are more like core range whiskeys, and not necessarily some very specific or very rare bottlings, because I want to share whiskeys that you can also buy and you can afford, and not necessarily some super limited hand-filled release, because I just don't see the point to do that. So yes, and now let's begin. Number 5 will be a Glen Scotia Expression, the 15-year-old. So I have to say that I really enjoy Glen Scotia, and what I have to mention about this distillery is that, in my opinion, they produce high quality single malts, and the price quality ratio is just perfect. So I think that Glen Scotia is really asking fair prices, contrary to most of the other distilleries. So I'm always happy to buy a Glen Scotia, and I think the 15-year-old is a really good one. It really represents the characteristics of the distillery. And fun fact, I just saw like a week ago that they won a gold medal in a Scottish competition. I'm not sure what that was, but anyways, it's really good. And also I reviewed I think in session 5 the 10-year-old Campbeltown Festival bottling from this year, and that was also a real gem for a very good price. Number 4 is a Laphroaig, the Lore, that I reviewed in video number 7. So what I like about the Lore is that for me it's really a Laphroaig that showcases and presents all of the main styles and the main characteristics of the distillery. And I'm not saying it's the best Laphroaig, but for me it's one of the most rounded, the most with a lot of layers and some complexity to it. Because, for example, the 10-year-old cask strength version is probably one of the very best Laphroaigs, but that's just a beast, you know. If you want to have a really smoky whiskey, a really strong one, a monster, then go for it. But the Lore is more like combining the different parts and the different expressions of Laphroaig. So you have the dryness, the woodiness of the Coulter cask, you have the sweetness of the triple wood or the Pedro Jimenez casks, and then you also have a very nice character, like you feel that there is also some older bourbon maturation in the bottle, but nevertheless it still has this house style, you know, the peatiness, this medicinal influence, the spiciness, and so on and so forth. So I think it's a really round Laphroaig, and yeah, compared to the Ardbeg or Lagavulin distilleries, I tend to prefer Laphroaig, because with Lagavulin, I think their core range is pretty limited. So you have the 16-year-old, which is very good, And you really have to look for some special releases if you want to explore Lagavulin. The prices are also pretty expensive. And with Ardbeg, it's pretty much something similar, that the core range is just excellent, very affordable for what you get, but the special releases are just insanely expensive. They are very, very good, but in my opinion, doesn't worth the money. So I'm happy to try samples, I'm happy to explore them, but it would be really, really pricey to get them. So Laphroaig is something to consider regarding this topic. The third place, number 3, is Springbank, and that is the Springbank 15-year-old. So everything that Springbank does is just remarkable. It's a very old school distillery. It's still family owned. They do everything the traditional way, and they always focus on the quality and not on the quantity. And when I tasted the 15-year-old, I was just blown away. It was just so good, just so rich, everything. So I really, really enjoyed that one. And I have to admit that I didn't try so many Springbanks, but I think the 15-year-old was just absolutely fantastic. And of course, when it comes to Springbank, I also have to mention the 12 years old cask strength version, because probably that's also, I don't know, for many people consider it the best Springbank in terms of price quality ratio. Every year they release a different batch, and it's just remarkable. But also they have other special releases, for example the 17-year-old Madeira Wood or the 15-year-old rum cask maturation, which are very limited, very expensive, but they are just incredible whiskies. But again, as I told you beforehand, I'm trying to focus on the more available and not limited releases. One mention here, they also produce the Longrow and Hazelburn whiskies. The Longrow is heavily peated. The Longrow, the Hazelburn is not smoky, and the Longrow Red is just something very, very nice. So there you have a very peaty, smoky Campbelltown whiskey that has red wine finish. This is why the name is like that, Longrow Red. And those are also expensive, but those are also really good. I truly enjoy the whiskies that have an extra wine cask finish or wine maturation. Yes. The second on the list, so top 2, is the Kilchoman Sanaig. And Kilchoman is a very special whiskey for me, because when I had my first tasting in Vienna in 2019 June, that was the Kilchoman Sanaig, was that a whiskey that really got me into the world of whiskies. So I think the Sanaig is really affordable. Kilchoman also is a very transparent, very honest distillery, and the quality that they produce is just remarkable. And despite the fact that this expression is rather young, so it's like 6, 7, 8-year-old casks that go into this batch, it's just really, really good, and I think it's really affordable. And I also have to mention the Machia Bay, which is the other core range offering that has less sherry influence and has more of this citrusy lime freshness on the nose and on the palate. I also love that equally. So you cannot really go wrong if you like smoky whiskey. And of course, what I also like about Kilchoman, that they release a lot of single cask expressions. And I reviewed, for example, a Madeira single cask in video number 6. And it's just so good. It's just really, really good. So yeah. And on the first place, this was a really tough decision. There are the Port Charlotte cask strength whiskies. So Port Charlotte releases regularly limited batches of cask strength whiskies, and there you had once the Port Charlotte Marsala cask, then you had the Port Charlotte Mouton Rothschild cask, so the MRC, then the Port Charlotte Oloroso cask, and now recently they released another one, the Port Charlotte Pauillac casks. So these whiskeys are always matured first in ex-bourbon barrels, so nothing fancy, normal maturation, and they always get an extra cask, an exotic cask finish, and this is mostly wine or fortified wine, and that's something that I truly love. So for me, that's really like the top. Those are the whiskeys that I enjoy the most. And because Port Charlotte, the normal 10-year-old or the Islay Barley expression is just amazing, I truly love that. But when you get these extra layers of fruitiness, those berries, the complexity and the additional layers is just incredibly lovely. There is smoke, but it's not overpowering. You have also this rounded, many different layers, and I just truly love it. And I also have to mention here that also the other two lines of Bruichladdich, because Port Charlotte is produced by Bruichladdich, so the Octomore, the most heavily peated whiskey on earth, is also a real gem. I also enjoy them, but they are very pricey. And the Bruichladdich bottling, so the Classic Laddie, the Islay Barley, Bear Barley, organic, and so on and so forth, they are all lovely whiskeys, but I had to pick one. And since I truly love smoky whiskey, and since I love red wine or generally wine cask finishes, I had to pick the Port Charlotte Cask Exploration series. So yeah, these are my top 5. As you can see, mostly smoky, mostly concentrated on Islay and Campbelltown, but I think they're available whiskeys. If you are considering to buy something for this Christmas, or you want to try something from these, I think in terms of price quality ratio, you cannot go wrong. So yeah, I wish you a very nice Christmas. Enjoy your malts. And I'm planning to release one more video this year where I'm going to do a summary from the first 10 videos. And after that, I will see you in the next year. Take care. Cheers.